What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Mind and Mateo. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is 2022, and I'm so excited for this year. It is big things. There are big things coming up, and it's going to be a really great year. And it's also going to be the year that my son is turning 1. I'm so excited. It's little Sammy's going to be turning 1 this August, and it's going to be awesome. We got a lot of big things coming up. I'm getting interviewed on another podcast, which is really cool. This coming Thursday, it's really exciting stuff. It's really cool, as well as lining up other people to interview on Mind of Mateo and get all that kind of going. And it's gonna be really fun. I'm super excited. Now, today's topic, I believe, is how I built my business to a little over $300,000 in revenue in about 2 years and a few months. And I think the reason I'm sharing this is just to give motivation to other people that many things are possible. You can really do anything that you set your mind out, you set your mind to, and accomplish some things that maybe you never thought were possible. I never certainly thought were possible. And to give you some motivation, I got another episode after this that you'll find very interesting, and I will cue that up at the very end of this episode. But without further ado, I started my IT company in 2019, late 2019, I believe it was. I think it was like October, November. And the reason why I started the IT company was because I've been in corporate IT pretty much for the last 10 years, give or take, maybe a little bit more. And I've always seen how things were run, and I've always had an issue with how things are run. But I never really took the initiative to fix any of those issues. And so my last position, I was the director of technology for a multi-million-dollar church here in Georgia, and I got a dose of working more than just a 9 to 5. Right? I was working a lot more than 9 to 5. And working weekends because, churches operate on Sundays and whatnot, and then Wednesday nights, and then they have a bunch of other things that go on throughout the week as well that can go daytime or nighttime. And it was really cool. It was really awesome. It was eye-opening because for me, I was a normal 9 to 5 kind of guy when it comes to work. I clocked in, I clocked out. My job was there. While I was clocked in, I gave great effort. I did everything that I should have done. People got great value from me working there, I believe, and it was great. But that was about it. I'm not that kind of guy. You hear some of these people, and man, it's awesome. God bless them. I wish I won't say I wish I was like that, but I can see how it's beneficial. Where they talk about how they've been entrepreneurial since they were like 9, and they had lemonade stands and car washes and these little businesses and stuff like that when they were younger. And I wasn't that. That's not me. I'm not a, I guess you could say, quote unquote, entrepreneur by birth or anything like that. I just started literally two years ago. 2019 was my first entrepreneurial venture. Before that, I was trying to be a singer, and that's why I came out of Georgia. I came out of Georgia to work with Jan Smith, and I worked with her for a couple of years, and I just made the decision that music wasn't where I wanted to go anymore. It didn't capture my heart. I love singing, I love music, I love all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't what I wanted to do as a professional career, and I wasn't big on the whole put in all this work. I had been working on music for about 6, 7, 8 years, and quite honestly, I started a bit late on that as well. I think I started actually looking into music when I was like 16. So, but I made the decision to switch, and when I made the decision to switch was because was because I started reading a bunch of books. I started getting introduced to the whole entrepreneurial world. And I remember reading, I think I hear this for a lot of people as the book that kind of opened their eyes, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it really opened up my eyes to finances and how to look at the world. And so it brought me down a path of reading more and more books. And as I started to read more of these books and leadership books and all this kind of stuff, I started to see I wanted something different. There had to be more than life than just sitting at an IT job at a desk and clocking in, doing all your work, waiting around, sitting there because You have to be present and then clocking out and going home. And I was tired also of a lot of the stuff that I could do remotely, and I didn't have to be in office for that kind of stuff. But just because of the way things are set up, some companies require you to be in person. And I don't agree with it all the time. I think there is a lot more capability for remote. I think the whole COVID experience has shown that a lot of people's jobs, they can be done remotely in a flexible way, and it helps a lot of the workers. But nonetheless, so I got an opportunity in 2017 or 2018 to be the director of technology for like I said, for the church. It opened up my eyes alongside with working or reading those books, those, I guess you could say, like self-help, motivational, entrepreneurial leadership books, all that kind of good stuff. And I remember going through this whole process. That's when the fire kind of started to get lit. And working at the church, I worked harder than I think I've ever had to work at any other job. It was great. It was awesome. It matured me dramatically when it comes to work and everything like that. Because like I said, before that, I was just a 9 to 5 clock, punch in, punch out, enjoy the rest of my life, do other things, little side hustles on the side and stuff like that, or music or whatever it might be. And so while working at the church, I had to put together pretty much the whole IT framework, because it was very different from corporate IT. So I had to model it more after the corporate IT and build standard operating procedures, and a lot of different things: teamwork, team building. I had some staff, had some volunteers that were also underneath my supervision and everything like that. And so it was super interesting, because I got my first taste of what's called an MSP, a managed service provider. The church had an MSP in place for multiple years, and it was very. I just noticed. I don't like talking bad about people, so I just noticed they weren't getting what their money was worth, and or what they were paying, and so. But it opened my eyes up to IT, not just in a singular instance where it's IT internally. That's what I've always been used to, is internal IT. But it opened my eyes up to you can offer IT to multiple businesses, and the profit margins can be really great if you know what you're doing. And so I started going through and looking at what they were paying for them and all that kind of good stuff, and we brought a lot of this stuff in-house. And I knew after seeing that and after reading all the books that I just saw how tremendous the potential was for earning, and looking at that, and I wanted to really take the next step. I've always wanted to lead, right? And I always wanted to build something that was kind of like, quote unquote, my own. And so that's where I got the opportunity. I was able to work on things in the background, flip the church from my employer to a client. And in 2019, I believe it was October or November, I launched what is now Everything IT Pros with my dad, which was really cool, because my dad had a health scare about, I think it's like 5 years ago now, and we weren't sure how that was going to end up. And so to be able to go into business with my dad was a huge plus, really cool. He had actually started Everything IT Pros as kind of like a consulting business. So I came to him, I said, "Pop, I'm thinking about doing this. I saw this business model from this MSP business model from a provider. They just weren't doing it justice. I think we can do it better." And he said, "Son, let's go. Let's do it," which was really cool. So he already had the LLC, Everything IT Pros, and we went ahead and we made the decision and flipped the church. I think the church, we flipped into a client, and then we got, I think, one other client. And I believe in those 2 or 3 months at the very end of 2019, we brought in like $14,000, which was really cool, really cool. And so, and I forgot to mention my mom also helps out with the business as well, so she's a partner as well. because she's in IT. My whole family's in IT. Like my brother, my mom, my dad, and myself, we're all in IT. It's really cool. It's interesting. But so 2019, like I said, 2 months, 2.5, 2-3 months, we brought in like $14,000. And then in 2020, I believe we brought on another client or two, and I think at the end of the year, we brought in about $40,000 or $50,000 of revenue, which is like, it's nothing, right? Really nothing, but it's a start. And it was working in the business. We pretty much over that next year built out the whole framework and processes, automation, all the software, the SaaS behind it, all that kind of good stuff. We put everything together, contracts, everything that we need. We kind of built the business. It was really of that instead of ready, aim, fire, aim kind of mentality where it's, look, here, we're going down this path, let's start. And then we'll figure it out as we go. And it was really cool. And then finally in 2021, from 2021 going into 2022, the business grew to about 300,000 on the books, right? Give or take. I think it was a little more than that we had under contract. Yeah, I think we had about between 300,000 and 400,000 under contract for 2021. And so it grew that third year drastically. And the one thing I think I wanted to share about that is I mean, it sounds like a lot of money. It's really not a lot of money after you get down to the net of it, and you start looking at expenses and split up between partners and all that kind of good stuff. But the cool thing about it is, I jumped from one world to another, right? I was able to jump from 9 to 5, where I was kind of at least in my mind back then, it was a fallacy that I was telling myself, but I was at the mercy of somebody else to give me a promotion. Because the truth is, I could have worked my way up exponentially. It was mindset. It was all what's in here. And but I took a few books and some opportunities, and I completely flipped what the outcome of my life was looking like in those few years. And I think for me, I was always so short-sighted, and I was always looking at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months from now, when really it's a long game. It really is a long game. It's something where you're looking 2, 3, 4 years out. I mean, it took 3 years to even build a livable wage, and that's not for everyone. Some people, year 2. Some people, they get VC funding. There's a lot of different ways, but for me, that's kind of how the path got laid out, and that's how it was built. And so my big takeaway for this is, if you've ever wanted something more from your life, if you ever sat at a desk or something and you thought there's more to life, there is, but it's up to you to quote unquote grab the bull by the horns. It's up to you to grab the bull by the horns of your life and make something out of it. And I mean, unless you go through and you start putting in the work, it's not just going to fall into your lap a lot of times. It's not easy. It really isn't. There's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of starting the business. I think the greatest thing is when I started to look at the numbers. I have a calculator that I found, and I started building out, customizing it, and I started seeing the numbers where if we got another client at this size, this is how much profit we'd make. If I got another client at this size, this is how much profit we make. We got another client at this size, this is how much profit, and how it stacks so quickly, and how many clients can we handle before we have to hire, and all that kind of good stuff. And so seeing all that, it just brought great excitement to life, and it brought fire, and it gave me, I guess you could say, passion. And but if you have anything in life that you really want to go for, I would say go for it. It's always going to be hard. I think that the big misconception that people they stumble over sometimes, at least I know I stumbled over this. Let's put it that way. I know I stumbled over it for a long time, is people fall, or I'd say, sorry, let me say it myself. I fell under the perception that I'm comfortable where I am. You know what I mean? I was comfortable. As much as I didn't like the 9 to 5, it paid all my bills. I had benefits. I had vacation days. I had sick days. I knew what I was getting into every day. Right? I knew what to expect. Right? And I always saw doing these other things is very, very hard. Right? But what I'm seeing now, being on the other side of it, and still pushing forward, still learning, still growing, because there's so much to learn. But what I'm seeing now that I'm on the other side of it is they're both hard. Whether you choose to stay comfortable and stay in a place where you really don't want to be, or you choose to make the leap and figure it out along the way, they're both hard. And they both require sacrifice. They both require greater effort. And they both require work. You just get to choose your hard. And that's the really cool thing about it. And after I started figuring that out, that's when things started to change for me. And so yeah, that's how I kind of built my company from zero to between $300,000 and $400,000 in revenue a year. And there was nothing special to it. It's just learning along the way. You know, you run into an issue, you push yourself into, I guess you could say, unknown territory, and you figure out how to stick the landing as you get there. I remember there were so many times we'd push for a contract or something. I remember the very first one, flipping the church into a client, and scrambling to get the contract in place, scrambling to get the numbers in place, scrambling to put the services, and you do everything that you can while you're figuring it out. And then I remember the second one, it was a little bit better because we had the contracts and everything in place, but you're trying to figure out the software to deliver the service and all this kind of stuff, and you're always running into issues constantly. And it's really cool because you're just building something as you go, and 9 times out of 10 you don't really know what you need until you get there. So you just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's kind of like you kind of flip on your head what you know, at least what I knew, which is like, I'm used to job interviews and stuff like that. You show up at a job, you prep, they usually tell you what they're going to ask about most times, give you a little bit of a heads up, but you kind of know after you've been in enough job interviews, and you prep, and you're going into an area where, you know, there's some uncertainty, but you kind of know what's going to happen. It's familiar, right? And with you know, when you're building your own business, a lot of times it's the opposite. You're pushing for something. You're pushing to go someplace you've never been. You're pushing to make amount of money that you've never made before. You're pushing to bring on a client of a size that you haven't brought on before, and try to make it work. And so you try to think about as many things as you can beforehand while you're going up. You know, what are all the things that can go wrong? What do I need? But you just don't know. So you run into the process. You run into the actual event of taking control of whatever it is you're going for, or landing that client, or whatever it might be. And then you start learning about all the things that you didn't know, and you got to figure it out and make it work. So that way you can create that bridge to get to the other side of where it is that you want to go. Super cool, super awesome. I love it. And it's never a dull moment. And it builds your character, it builds grit, it builds toughness. But you know, I would say this: if there's anything in your life that you want to go for it, shoot for it. I used to hate failure. It really struck an insecurity deep inside of me. And I used to hate it. It absolutely made me, I hate looking incompetent, right? But what this whole entrepreneurial journey has taught me is you have to go through failures to see success. And you may go through a lot of failures, but if you never take the shot, you never make the basket. If you never take the shot, you'll never hit the target. And sometimes you just got to take the shot and figure it out along the way. And that's honestly the way that I was able to do it so far. And that may change as I get to different levels of success. I'm pretty sure it will, as far as what I've learned. But you have to do it. You have to just start and figure it out along the way. Start and figure it out along the way, because There's going to be so much. You can prep all you want, but there's just working knowledge that you won't be able to prepare for. You won't know until you actually get there. All right. I love y'all. The next story is going to be how I lost it all and how I had to start and build it back. And it's going to be very interesting. It was a very interesting year in 2021. But in full transparency, I want to show my journey and how it's going and how it went and all this kind of stuff, and be completely transparent. So I think I've heard it called before. I think I heard it from, who was it? It was either Patrick Bet-David or Alex Hormozy or Russell Brunson. It was one of those three, but I remember hearing one of them call it the cycle, which is like every entrepreneur goes through their cycle where, I don't know, they screw up and they lose everything or something like that, and they have to build it back. And so I went through my first cycle, and I'm going to share a little bit about that the next time, the next podcast. And I'm super excited. Just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up, I'm changing the format. For the past year, I've done mine and Mateo every Monday, released an episode, and I'm going to change it up a little bit just because of how my schedule is going with my son here, and some of the business things that I'm trying to tackle. It's tough to do every single Monday just because of my schedule is always fluctuating, and I don't just want to post once a week. So I'm going to be kind of doing my own cadence for the next couple episodes for the next few months, and hopefully pumping out some more episodes as we do this. And I'm super excited. It's going to be awesome. I love y'all. You can reach out to me at Instagram is at the Mateo Medina. Twitter is at Mateo Medina. Reach out to me. I love you guys. I love talking to you guys, and just knowing what you think. And hopefully this has helped you on this whole entrepreneurial journey of life. Love y'all. Have a good one. Until the next time.